everybody, welcome to ChaiSideChat. Today we will be talking a little about marriage. And how it has evolved over the decades, and anything else that we want to discuss as somebody who has experienced several generations.
Related to marriage, right?
Okay, cool.
It's also a topic that's coming up with our kids, and then they have very different views. So I think it's another one where there is a big change in the last 20, 30 years that we are getting to learn now.
Yeah.
Also, just to say that we do have experience in being married for how many? I have been almost 29 years.
Yeah. We are both 30 years.
Yeah, we have crossed the 30-year milestone recently. So so definitely we have experience, and we have also seen life to kind of see different kinds of marriages. Like back in the day, again, showing our age, I guess, but it was pretty much a union of two families. That's how it used to start. Like, I think so. It started from there, where that two families were connected, and then the real individuals were important but less important because they were practically children when they got married, and so there was less about how much did they really like each other, compatibility, and other things. But I think it has evolved with generations. I think, like we were just talking even before this. So yeah, I think a lot has changed from good and bad, right? So what do you think? Mostly like good? Or
Well, it depends on your viewpoint, right? On what is good and what is bad. But in general, I think it's nice that the main people involved in the marriage have become now the important part of the marriage. So, which is nice because then it's after all their life and their wedding and that they are celebrating. And but it's also not so good because we are secluding them. Like they are just only one part of the whole system. It's not like for everyone like to be involved. But the weddings are still part of involving everybody. So I guess it's okay. But the marriages are now considered more nuclear than anything, than what it was before. So
I think one thing that at least this is true for India many, many decades ago versus now, where the roles in the marriage were pretty well defined. Nobody really questioned, right? If a girl was 12 years old when she was getting married, or 16 or 18, there's always a set formula on what is expected of her, and then there was no questioning, so it was somewhat going with the flow. I think somewhere along the lines, and by the time we got married, it was not so much set in stone. So there was, we kind of created our own path. And some people came here, some people stayed still with joint families and all that. And now, from there to now, everything is open now. Like everything's up for discussion, right? Like even starting from, do you need to marry? Like why marriage is also up for discussion now, which we didn't question until few years ago.
So we took a full swing.
Right. But I think the basic question would be like, what is marriage to you? Do you want to talk about that?
Marriage, like that's, I think exactly. I think that's a fundamental question here. So originally, I think, again, we don't know when marriage was originally invented or kind of started as a societal thing. Maybe that was to stabilize the society and have more family-oriented society. I think there was a need for to have kids, and they have a stable family. They needed a man and a woman, so they wanted to organize it such a way that there was a equal balance, like not one girl got all the guys and one guy got all the girls otherwise. But instead of that, they were distributing that kind of all women and men, so that there was a society that was formed as an end result. More for a societal point of view. It was less about the individual's needs. I think later on we are drifting away from that naturally, because society also is no longer a joint family. We're going from there to nuclear family to semi-nuclear now, like basically pretty much me and my wife, or my wife and husband, things like that. So some of it is, I think, more organic, but some of it is a little scary because I don't know where we are heading and what does it mean.
No, but if you look back, I think marriage is a term that they probably used. It was mainly for progeny. I think if you go back to the way beginning, this, like you said, we don't know when this topic of like when the marriage was actually coined or made it like a societal norm. But at the end of the day, they were looking for to like have your family. So so that was the main reason.
Social
And
construct
so yeah.
mostly, right?
So then and then that coming back to one having so many spouses, like that was also very like obvious in our history, right? Like we learned like the kings would marry multiple queens, and so basically they're just propagating their genes around. So yeah, like it's very interesting how it has come across a lot, but I think in the last couple of decades we have seen a lot more changes in the marriage, and it is more about the guy and the girl, or like the basically the partners in the marriage. And so yeah, it depends on what you are looking for in the marriage. That is exactly like at one point it was just a part of your growing up, or like that is how you were born a female, so your job was to give birth and raise children and support your family in doing physical labor or whatever, right? So I think that aspect of it makes it very robotic. But then slowly, when you saw the women were also stepping in on many features, like generally being hand in hand with the other gender. I think there I'm glad that the marriage has changed for the better. It has been supportive of women who are, gender equality has come into place a little.
I think another big change I see or I've observed is if you see again, if I was talking to my grandparents or whoever, I don't think the people involved in the marriage ever really thought much about, okay, what kind of person do I want to marry, or they were never given the chance. Somewhere parents or grandparents or uncle, aunt, somebody would decide that this is a good alliance and then get them married. And then the roles were very well defined. Man is going to be the breadwinner, wife is at home, she's a homemaker. So expectations were clear, and then they somehow made it work because I think they were always committed to make it work.
There was no choice. There was no other option.
Exactly. I think that part changed, and I think a lot more women started educating themselves. They said, okay, maybe I should give thought about who I marry. And then they started having a role in also being the breadwinner. So there is like some sort of equality. But on the flip side, I don't know if it has made our lives more complicated or less complicated.
See, I think going back to again the same thing, whatever you were saying was great in like a joint family, right? So I think in the joint family particularly, we the girls would come get married, and then they would be more connected with the other women of the house than their husband, who they would barely see. So it worked for that particular lifestyle generation, but now with the nuclear families coming in, and it's becoming more and more like secluded with the rest of the family. It is
it's difficult.
Right?
Does marriage still even make any sense anymore? I mean, that's a real extreme question.
Right.
I'm sure it has its own. I mean, if there's natural love and you want a commitment of some sort, I guess that is a way to say, show your commitment, like with a piece of paper that, okay, yes, I am married to you for life. But then, does it really mean much? Because there's no other implications other than just you and I stay together and raise a family. And if those things, if financially and socio-economically, there is no real stress or pressure on staying together as a family, did we just make unnecessary commitment, which really is meaningless, and that is just increasing more divorce rates and giving business to lawyers? I mean, so I think these are the hard questions.
But does having the commitment give you a sense of security and emotional support, or is it when you don't have that, the freedom feels liberating? Again, that's, I think for each person it's their own, right? Like whatever you are looking for in a marriage. I think now we are at a point where our kids especially, they're questioning everything, saying, okay, why do I have to get married? Why do I have to get married at this age? So which are all very valid reasons. So I mean, other than there is a certain age where if you really want to have children of your own, then there's a certain age. But then with them thinking about freezing their eggs and this and that, probably there is no limit there.
Exactly. And even to that point, they can challenge that when our grandparents got married and had kids, they were much younger than our generation. Our generation already, we kind of I think they were raising eyebrows when they heard when we were having kids. We are doing that with our next generation already.
Yeah.
Like 40 used to sound like a very odd age, but now it's not that odd at all. I know many people who are in their 40s having kids.
The only thing for that, the only counter, I guess, that I have is you want to be physically little stronger to be running around a toddler.
Yeah, but then also the technology, like the support, medical system has been so much more supportive now.
Yeah,
For having a 40-year-old person having the thing. And then the dependency also has changed.
Right.
Like when we were raising our children, the kind of things we did for them, I think this current generation has support system in place.
Yeah.
Maybe not from the family, but they are willing to pay for it or do whatever in some ways and get that support, right? So technical necessarily, like my mother was a grandmother by the time she was my age.
Yeah.
And
Much
she took
younger
care
to
of
me.
my babies and like sitting down, giving them baths, massages and all. I don't know if I can do it for my children, grandchildren, my if and when I have them. Because it's just physically probably not possible for me to do that. That's where I can see the advantage of having like the marriageable age is a good thing. I mean, there are some, I strongly believe that the elders and ancestors had a reason for everything that they have done or said. And of course, some of them are blindly followed. But but then sadly there were some other things that got introduced, like the gender roles. Like basically the women were never given the so they were never really allowed to even talk in front of the men or even have an opinion or anything. They were confined to their own personal time with their husbands, spouses, that they could address their suggestions, whatever, right? Even that was not always accepted. They just had that kind of rule. So in that matter, I feel like now the generation is so much more like equal on trying to make things happen for them. Like for example, just this weekend we were hanging out with a couple who are almost 10 years younger to us. I could see the dynamic so much different than our, like they're just a decade younger than us, but how they are raising their children and how they interact among each other, the spouses. So I found that was like, wow, it is different than what I and my husband would talk about or like behave in front of others.
No, I don't know the right answer for this is, yes, there is lot more about roles are transferable between mom and dad. One person can be working, other person can be at home or whatever. But I feel there is a unique role or a unique relationship a father brings and a mother brings. Just because, okay, the mother is continuously busy and outside, father can be the parent, but he cannot be the mother. I don't know if there's a reason why these roles exist, like a mom and a dad or mother and father. I don't know if they're so interchangeable. And are we, in the name of like I want to be equal and freedom, are we actually depriving the child of a real motherly
It's
relationship?
interesting about that because see, when a couple is going through a divorce and they have a child, right? Like typically until the child is an adult, usually the mother gets Oh no, I thought it was at least even in India too.
Until maybe 2 or something, but after that, father gets it in India. I don't. We can check.
Oh,
but
okay. Because right, there is a difference between. So that makes me feel like the mother has more influence on the child than the father. Of course, the father does to bring their own love and their own family financial support if he's working and breadwinner. But
and I think. But fundamentally, I feel like in the past when there was a marriage, it was about procreation, but also there was the reason they want the parents and grandparents and the whole family got involved is because that was essentially part of a support system. Like this new couple that are getting married would later on be taking care of the elders in the family, right? So they kind of had to pick a family, make sure that this family aligns with ours. We have a lot of compatibility, and there was a lot of effort put into that. I think somehow slowly as we get into the nuclear families, that thought is fading. It's not completely gone. I think there are still, I think we are in the midst of that.
Correct. We are that.
Sandwich generation. There, I don't know if our next generation we can expect or at least right now it's not very clear. They're still very young, but it's difficult, especially if you let them decide. They can bring anybody that kind of suits their needs, but may not quite work for the family.
So you're talking about next generation as in our children. I am talking about even like 10 years. Like I'm saying,
already.
Right? So they are so clear cut about their opinions, and like I felt like at least me 10 years ago, I like that constant feeling about, okay, I have to be here for my children too, but my parents are getting older, I need to be there for them. How do I support them? Right? The juggle. That one, I feel like the current like the generation that came after us, like 10 years, 20 years, they are actually...
How are they managing?
No, they just have more clear-cut boundaries, boundaries, I believe. So this is the life we chose. That is the life they chose. And also, their generation, their parents are also probably different generation than our parents.
Correct.
So they are also already having like us. So the expectation is not there. Like our grandparents, there was no question. They just, okay, we are done retiring, we are done with our responsibility, we will come and stay with you guys. That's how it happened. Our parents didn't enforce it on us, maybe because we were so far away or whatever.
Right.
But they had that opinion. They felt like it would be nice for somebody to be there for us.
Correct.
But I think our generation already, we know we may not be have the luxury of some support. So better to be on our own. So I think that as like how our generation is moving, I think even our like the parents' generation or the family generation is moving.
Correct.
So it is.
That is right. Yeah, marriage used to be the families coming together before. Now I think the family aspect is definitely reducing. It's becoming more individual. Right?
I mean, these are all just our opinions and thoughts. Let us know what you think.
Movies show that, right? Movies show a lot of what's changing with movie, with marriage.
It's a reflection of the society or how the society is moving. So I think there are many movies back in the day. They used to always portray. I remember some really old movies, especially Telugu movies, where I used to watch like the ideal wife is somebody who takes care of the aging, in-laws, takes care of the husband's family, doesn't talk great about her own family, things like that. That was considered as an ideal lady or a female character. From there on, we came to a point where we have seen it all essentially, right? Changing in the whole dynamics of movies.
Correct.
So we were talking.
The Great Indian Kitchen is where it actually shows the whole transformation, right? Like how that starts and she ends up having her own. She wants to get out of the house to build her.
So also we are generalizing it based on the little limited data that we have. I feel like in general, if you look at the marriages in India, I agree that there are big changes in some parts of the society, but if you go back and dig deeper, I think a lot of marriages are still in the same boat that they were. So it is for the good or bad or worse, or good or bad. That is the big thing. But you're right. Like there are some big points that here and there that we see, and we are only seeing generation that is like us, like similar to our educated.
Moving up middle class.
So if you still go and look at the labor class in India and the kind of marriages and the it's just
very different.
So
True. So movies wise, I know. I think we're talking about Great Indian Kitchen.
Great Indian Kitchen was one that I think to me it actually showed that transformation. It starts off as a very traditional family, but somehow the girl gets the courage to get out of it and do her thing, and you hear that in real life quite a bit also.
In a subtle way, right? I think the way they showed it also is very subtle. I like that. It wasn't like glaring in your face, like they were not trying to abuse her or something, but it was very subtle, like, where in certain ways they were kind of showing, little bit showing that everybody their place, right? And I think with marriage changing from a committed relation to a more nuclear relation, I think we have seen how even the movies are showing how this has shifted through the years, where living together has become a norm nowadays, whereas it was kind of like it was a big taboo before then. So it's interesting to see the dynamics change.
Actually, when I was thinking about that same movie again, right, there is this scene where when the mother is gone to her other daughter's place, and the father figure is trying to go to work, and he just doesn't know where his footwear is. And yes, that is showing some sort of dependence on the women, but it also shows their place, saying you have to be serving this man. And then I think when I reflect back on my parents, that dynamic was there. I don't know if it was more about one serving the other, but somehow the man becomes so overly dependent on the woman
Yeah.
in the house for everything, like food, where are your clothes, wear this, wear that, and all that. And yeah, but there's also a lot of love in that,
Yeah.
how they
Do you
do
think it is because of that dependency that marriages were so-called successful, if you may say so, because divorce rate was low? Or is it that that dependency was a binding that was kind of holding them together for good or bad? Or is that a good thing or a not so good
Yes.
thing? Right?
It is again debatable. I don't think this 20 minutes can cover all the topics because
Yeah.
the same thing, like it doesn't matter. I have some Caucasian friends, and when I go to their house, I see how it's like whoever comes into the house first at dinner time, they start the dinner going. Or if they don't know, they are tending to themselves. But that's not how our Indian households work,
Yeah.
right? And typically we are all generally somehow, all my friends I know, they all, the women are the provider of the
Correct.
food, like
Correct.
at least like, yeah. So it becomes our responsibility, and in a good way or a bad way, I don't know. Some days like the Great Indian Kitchen, you're just like, oh my God, I have to cook again. That there are,
Yeah.
but that is typically the Indian behavior, Indian expectation in a marriage. I feel like sadly. But yes, again, the newer generation, I'm noticing is
Definitely changing.
Yeah.
they talk about it more openly than I think the previous generations. So it just is accepted that okay, this is what we do. You do this, I do this. Like unspoken agreements are happening.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, it was really good to see how the next generation picks it up. And yeah, we are looking forward. But
Yeah.
that's our.
I know. I mean, I think we barely touched the surface. Marriage
We'll
is
have to come
there's
back
like
to it.
so many
Yeah.
angles to it, and then so many aspects of it. But I think that's for
Another show. We didn't even touch. We couldn't even touch the weddings, the way they have changed over the years,
Yeah,
right?
we'll have to come back to this topic.
that.
Yeah,
Guys. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay
But
tuned.
definitely, yeah, marriage is something I think like
We'll
it
need
all
many
depends
more
on.
cups of chai for that.
Yeah.